Hey everybody. In this video, I wanted to take a few minutes and summarize my thoughts on Call of Duty World War II after spending about a week with it. For those of you who are specifically interested in the single player campaign, the competitive multiplayer, or the zombies mode, I've done separate videos specifically on those aspects of the game, which I'll link to in the description box down below in case you want to check those out. What I really want to do here is speak more generally about the game as a total package and kind of give you my thoughts on my experience with it overall. So, Call of Duty is a game that I typically don't indulge in as a general rule. In fact, of the Call of Duty games since Modern Warfare, the only two that I had previously purchased before this one were Modern Warfare 2 and Advanced Warfare. And that's largely because for me, Call of Duty is one of those series that tends to have a sort of glacial pace when it comes to innovation and improvement and refinement. I've also developed a preference, especially since playing Advanced Warfare, for the way that Sledgehammer Games handles the franchise. And so it probably shouldn't be any surprise to me that World War II is the most interesting and compelling of the Call of Duty games that I've seen in recent years. Not just because of the more fundamental, back to basics nature of it as a result of its setting, but due to the sense that I get when playing the various aspects of the game that Sledgehammer really understands what makes for a good, fun, compelling experience in the overarching Call of Duty framework. One thing I've been thinking about a lot as I've been assessing this game is the value proposition of it. Obviously, this is a big $60 to $100 investment, depending on which version of the game you opt for. And I definitely found myself really thinking seriously as I was experiencing the various aspects of it as to whether or not it was actually worth the price of admission. And I think there's a few different ways that you can look at it. I would say that taking any one part of this game and forcing it to bear the total responsibility for the cost of the overall package would probably leave most folks at least somewhat disappointed. While each piece of this puzzle is pretty compelling and polished and worthwhile in its own right, I think it really is the total package that justifies the cost of the game. When I look at zombies or the campaign or the multiplayer or the associated headquarters environment, I see pros and cons to all of them. But I really do think when taken as a whole, and speaking as somebody who has been interested and entertained by partaking in every aspect of the game, I think the overall experience is very much worthwhile, and I do feel pretty satisfied with my purchase. Are there issues with Call of Duty World War II? Absolutely there are. Whether it's technical problems in the zombies mode, occasional issues with lag and hit registration in the competitive multiplayer, somewhat frustrating or poorly designed components to the single player campaign, or the load times associated with headquarters and general performance and stability issues in the total package. There are certainly nits to pick and technical problems that I think can and should be fixed in post-release patches for the game. As I'm fond of saying, there is no such thing as a perfect game, and Call of Duty World War II is definitely no exception to that rule. But in the final analysis, I do think this game does more right than wrong, and by a considerable margin. I've often felt, especially in recent years, that Call of Duty should make the transition from an annualized franchise to a perpetual platform, and I absolutely see this iteration of the game as being a step in that direction. There's just so much to do and so many little details and nuances to the overall package that I could absolutely see it being compelling in the long term for a lot of people, myself included. It's also worth noting that there are some old school features in this game that I really do appreciate, such as the ability to create private matches with bots for practicing or just having a good time with friends without the added pressure of competitive play with strangers. And the fact that the game boasts not just a handful, but 9 very fleshed out and fully realized multiplayer modes, including the new objective-based war mode, which is definitely a standout and something that I would hope to see become a permanent fixture in the series moving forward. Is Call of Duty World War II a revolutionary game? No, not by any means. But what it does and succeeds really well at is recapturing and embracing a lot of the best qualities that have historically been associated with the series. I think it's perfectly valid to say that in a lot of ways this is just another Call of Duty game, but I think that would wrongfully disregard the polish, attention to detail, finesse, and genuine heart that this game has, in my opinion. I would also have to say that its rich and broad feature set make it an almost ideal candidate as an initial experience for somebody interested in getting into the first-person shooter genre. Having said all that, hopefully you folks have enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, be sure to hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Pushing to the tower! We need to clear those enemies!